So I'm going to be doing some recordings based on Ayurvedic principles and predominantly focusing in on the dynamics between our nutritional and dietary profiles, what we choose to eat regularly as our sort of maintenance routines. They're things that are important on a regular basis to give us a feeling of structure and some organization around our diets, but also to keep them interesting and engaging, where we look forward to what we're going to have, and also that we frame in and take into account what we're dealing with issue-wise in terms of what's happening with the tissues in the body, what's happening with the energy level, the mood, the digestive processes, the breathing, circulation, hormone levels. You can go on and on and on, categorizing things based on how they display through states of imbalance or symptomology and pathology. And in their more advanced states, these imbalances result in named or acquired diseases that we could call it a manifestation of an imbalance to the level where it has its own life, its own title. And but I'll stay away from the terminology of those diseases for right now anyway, because the purpose of this introduction is to bring into the conversation around diet and health and lifestyle, and bring into that conversation that we're all kind of having collectively as human beings right now, in the context of building harmony, building resilience, and a foundation for the duplication of healthy, beneficial results, the ones that we want to see in normal, healthy, undisturbed tissues and properly functioning digestion, appropriate responses in the immune system, regular, normal responses in the immune system, not overreactive or excessively defensive states of immune response. I see that as a very, very big problem at this point in our culture and society and the world. People are under such levels of pressure and stress that they are actually producing imbalances and systematic breakdowns in their own bodies at alarming rates, where our immune systems are collapsing at epidemic rates, and our digestive systems are failing to function in a normal, healthy way, and our diets fail to provide the basis for a nutritional profile that simply sustains us. And why is it that the terrain with which we make all these decisions about our lives and our bodies have gotten so complicated? Why are they so complicated? And I think we can hypothesize and come up with innumerable theories as to why we humans, with our big heads standing on top like a ball on top of our bodies in the biped fashion, are so fixated on complicating everything to the point where we no longer have a basic grasp of what keeps us healthy, sustained, happy, resting well, enjoying our lives, taking care of our loved ones, having time for the quality events in our lives and the things that really matter. And because of that disassociation that I'm witnessing, I feel it is my duty and responsibility to articulate things and re-articulate things that come from a very deep place relating to a time when we were innately responsive in a healthy, balanced, harmonious ways. We adapt to the seasons. We adapt to the times of day, morning, high noon, and evening, the wee hours of the night. We adapt to seasonal cycles, springtime, summer, fall, and winter. And how those seasons not only relate to and are different from one another, but how they actually facilitate and usher in the season that follows. So if you're in spring, for example, then you know you're transitioning towards summer. So it's time to prepare for summer in a way. And then again in the fall, you have a lot of momentum and activity happening and changes in the environment. The weather starts to cool down, the days are getting shorter, the leaves are drying out and changing color on the trees, and the wind begins to come in and create movement and change that shifts us from the summer sort of stale, percolating, possibly humid, depending on where you are, but certainly warm conditions of summer into these drier, lighter, colder, more unpredictable qualities of the autumn. And what does autumn do? It ushers in the winter. And winter is a time of nourishing ourselves at a deeper level, becoming more still, adapting into the more earthy, damp, stagnant conditions that we see in the wintertime. Depending on, again, where you live and what the conditions are there, there's often more moisture, cold, density, and a slower moving energy in the winter. We call it, the bear will hibernate, people will gather around the hearth or celebrate their holidays in the wintertime, have wonderful meals, maybe put on a few pounds, and take more time to cultivate our inner world when things are earthy and damp and sort of have more of a stable or stagnant quality. And then what happens? We segue, things start to come back to life. The first flowers of spring pop up in the ground, the first signs of green grass, and we move into spring. So what I want to briefly introduce is this concept of seasonal, rhythmic, reviving, revitalizing, renewal, reciprocation, and continuing through these cycles with trust and with faith and with dignity. I think because we've learned to structure our lives in very organized, quote unquote, organized ways, we've become the most disorganized species of them all because we fail to understand the simplicity of our lives, the simplicity of our purpose, and what it is to be a dignified animal walking on this earth. We have our consciousness, we have our ability to infuse the daily experiences we have with our consciousness, but it doesn't necessarily supersede, it definitely doesn't supersede the need to care for and nurture the stable frame of our body and our environment and our home and our immediate loved ones, because those are the things that will sustain us in the cold of winter. Those are the things that will be there at the end of a long summer when we've been traveling and missing out on the day-to-day because our schedule has been disrupted. And that's all very normal and good to have those transitions throughout our lives and our seasons and our different responsibilities and things that we take on. But it ought to be that there's a landing place and a place we return to reacquire our center of gravity. And this really is what Ayurveda is all about. Ayurveda is based in the 5 elements theory: space, air, fire, water, and earth. And these elements translate into the world that we live in. Our world is made up of spaces, It's made up of air and change and movement. It's made up of fire and heat and focus. It's made up of water and substance and fluidity and cohesion. And it's made up of earth and stability and sturdiness. And, a great example of the earth element is a rock. And a great example of the water element is a river or some body of water. And a great example of the fire element is the sun or a campfire or a stove where you prepare your food. And a great example of air is the wind, is the feeling of change in the air and the movement of breath in our bodies. And a great example of space, the most subtle and sometimes least understood element, is the idea of open spaces, the idea of clarity and reflection and the ability to house the other four elements safely within a given space, like a room, a park, a patio, a gathering place where many people come that has room for a lot of things. So space serves as a container for the other elements and also as a way to build, add, and take away. So further development of this concept is, yes, we see it in our environment and we see it in ourselves. But a further distillation of the five elements are what we call in Ayurveda the three doshas. And the three doshas are made up of these five elements in a more condensed and reasonable form with which to understand our the humanness of us, what we deal with as human beings, and how we display these traits of the five elements in our bodies, our minds, our emotional patterns, and also our impetuses. As far as, by impetus, I mean elements aren't just the physical structure of the body and the cavities and spaces and the movement of breath. Yes, it is those things, but it's also the catalysts behind our actions and decisions, behind our deeper motivations. Or I use the word impetus, which I think is a good way of communicating the idea of the five elements in action in our lives through a sense of purpose. And we all know it. You know it. When you're engaged with your day or the moment you're in a very real way, and you're doing all the things that have sort of percolated to become a quality of yourself, something that gives you a sense of full engagement and being present in a way that really makes every cell of your body feel more alive, and also makes you know that on some, whether it can be tangibly explained or not, you know that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You know that you're aligned with your purpose. And therein lies the mystery of our lives, the mystery of why we are organized at such a level where we're these complicated beings, but in reality, we can continually return to this five elements theory, to the idea of simplicity within the universe, simplicity within the planet Earth and its displays and its creative expressions of the elements, and the beauty that can be captivated through minerals and through rocks and through water sources and through wells and through springs and through heat and through light and dynamic, and the play of light and shadow on rocks. Oh my God. And, the movement of a cool breeze on a summer's day, and the feeling of being alone in the world with all the space around you. These powerful experiences that we have in nature are exactly the same as the universe itself telling us that our conscious experience of the world is real, it's meaningful, and it matters. And so if you're having a good moment and you're really steeped in it and you're energized and there's a creative impulse behind your actions and your next step, your next step because there's a feeling of being vibrant and alive, and that activates every single cell of your body, then you're on. You've got it. you're infusing your day and your moment with consciousness. And that consciousness is expressing itself through these 5 elements. And so for me, this is my faith. If you want to call it a religion, fine. I don't, that's a culturally loaded word, as is the word God, as is even the word faith, seems to have a connotation of dogma or stigmatism to it. But I prefer to look at these things as the willingness to be receptive, the willingness to accept the moment as it is, and have an understanding of things that is profound and expresses itself well in an organized way, but also to have an understanding of the world and this place we live and our lives that includes the space for the mystery, for the things that we can't explain, that we can try. And I admire and I aspire myself. Here I am now trying to explain a concept that I feel very passionately about. But I also understand that however many times I do it, go back to square one, explain the 5 elements, describe the doshas, describe its relationship to bodily health, to the mental state, to the emotional body, to our spiritual impetus and drive to exist in this world for a period of time while we're here, and to interact well and wisely with each other, to make sense out of our health, to make sense out of our bodies, and to deal with matters of aging, to deal with matters of child rearing and raising children and their adaptability and their resilience and their substantive qualities that, Lord willing, have the ability to then sustain themselves and to perform similar actions in the way that you have to reinvigorate your life and your reality with this invisible drive. I think is very important conversation to be having at a time where I see things accelerating in complexity, and I don't personally feel that the acceleration in complexity in our culture has necessarily made things better for us. Now, it can, and it's possible that technological advancement is an aspect of that expression that I spoke of a few minutes ago, which is this expression of the innate potential of being, the fusion of consciousness into reality and to make things happen. There are technological advancements, like the one I'm using right now to speak to you, that are creating possibilities that didn't exist before. And I concur with that and I support that. But my role in all this is to use these advancements in technology and to use these advancements in human evolution and the superconscious to bring back something old, something ancient, something that we remember more deeply inside of ourselves. A feeling of intuition, a feeling of presence and guidance and commitment to our lives that is sustained by something greater than ourselves that we will probably never understand completely. I won't say I know for sure, but I believe there's a mystery that encompasses this reality that is beyond yours or my full comprehension. We can embrace it. We can step up to the plate, try again, express it through our art, express it through our language, through our cooking, through our writing, through our contributions to science, through our contributions to furniture making and home construction, whatever the category is, they're all relevant and purposeful ways of engaging with life's purpose, with the understanding that there's a mystery to it. And there'll be things that are always looming that we can't quite extrapolate full meaning from. And anyway, and I think that's good. I'm glad I'll never know everything there is to know. And I enjoy the simplicity of my mind, the ability to drop into the space of the moment and just look around and appreciate my surroundings, look at the colors, feel the temperature of the air, notice the sensations in my own body. Do I feel warm? Do I feel safe? Am I comfortable here? Would I call this space that I am home? And I love the return to simplicity as we zoom in and hone our capabilities and our functions to take better care of ourselves and to approach the problems in our lives and in the world in a way that is conducive to harmony and to returning to a simpler time of understanding these basic tenets of well-being. So anyway, I'm going to be doing I want to say a series of talks, but that makes it sound more organized than it really is. But I'm going to be following a trajectory, beginning with this introduction of talks on seasonal health and Ayurvedic medicine, going deeper into the five elements theory and its relationship to the human body, our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health that relates to these elements in terms of their consolidated forms of the three doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And I've got a lot of questions about the doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, and which one am I, and do I have all three, and does it change as I age? What if I live with somebody who is opposite from me and they're more this and I'm more that? There's all these awesome, pathways of exploration in terms of understanding these concepts better. But I just wanted to set the tone with this introduction to remind you to keep it soft, keep it light, keep it playful, and approach it with the idea that you're going to continue to evolve and gain information. Anytime you've solidly grasped a topic and you're no longer curious about it, it's probably not a topic that's worth exploring for a very long time, because you want to keep going and you want to keep your interests piqued and stay curious about it. So I'm going to be doing that. And a further evolution of these same principles is diet and self-care practices and therapies to rejuvenate and properly heal our immune systems and our endocrine systems and our nervous system response to trauma, stress, and stimuli that then affects our immunity and our digestion and our absorption of the nutrients in our food and the beneficial components of the things that we expose ourselves to, because ultimately we want to maximize that engagement and the exchange between ourselves, our bodies, and the world around us, and the aspects of the world that we take in, whether it be in the form of, a fruit or a vegetable or a piece of meat or grain or a glass of water or sunshine, however it is that we're taking and ingesting and digesting things into our bodies to regenerate tissue and to make a healthy, strong body is something that I think is worth exploring more in depth using the five elements theory and the principles of the three doshas and its relationship to taste and the way we taste things on our tongue, and how the way we taste things on our tongue then translates to what type of enzymes we produce in the mouth, what type of salivary amylase is conjured in order to initiate digestion in the upper stomach, and then to transition it through the small intestine and into the liver for organizational tasks and decision makings through the metabolics, and then segueing into the bloodstream through the permeation of the small intestine to feed and produce the hydration of our plasma and then our blood. And then vicariously and by way of this process, we create the tissue, the principles for tissue conversion take place automatically at that point. So when it comes to muscle, fat tissue, bone tissue, nerve tissue, reproductive tissue, and then ultimately the resulting stamina, endurance, or immunity that a person has is really based in some very simple principles that begin with how we take our food initially, the state of our cells when we ingest, and how the introduction in the first stages of digestion and consumption of food and drink, how it then translates into something hopefully useful, meaningful, good, and regenerative in a positive way versus the negative way in terms of the tissue health that results. So, these are my areas of expertise. I'm going to do my best to share them. And I thank you for your time.